So let me invite on stage our panelists and the chairs. We're the only one staying between you and the lunch, so we'll try to be fast. So please welcome on stage Mr. Mauro Pezze, professor of the Schaffhausen Institute of Technology. Please. And Abdul Wahid, which is cyber stock manager at second biggest telecom provider in United Arab Emirates. Abdul? Please. Yeah. Thank you. For the next 30 minutes, we will try to cover several questions related to cyber protection in the modern world. We will talk about security threats, about security technologies, and skills, shortage of skills on current cybersecurity market, and overall future projections. And so let me start with a request to our panelists to introduce themselves quickly. So Mauro, can you please?
Well, you know me, you know myself already, so I don't think I need to introduce myself, but I'm the same as 10 minutes ago, working at Schaffhausen Institute of Technology, and annoying you once more 10 minutes for this panel.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdul Wahid. I work in Do Telecom, and I welcome you all to Abu Dhabi. I hope you will have a fantastic time.
Thank you. So let me start with the first question. So my first question is about cyber threats. So we all know from different reports and news that there are a lot of different threats, right? There is ransomware, crypto miners, different type of botnets, new threats for IOC. What do you think, what are the most dangerous threats right now, which you see right now on the market and something which you believe will be in the market in a year or two? So, Abdul, let me start from you.
Yeah, I think since morning, we are hearing a lot about this ransomware attacks. That's already on a rise, and it's everywhere in the news. Plus, in this area, what we have seen also is, there are mostly APT attacks, which are very much targeted to the oil companies and particularly to the Middle East. So, for sure, malware, ransomware threats are on a rise. So then we need to see how we will ensure that we are protected from these kind of threats. So one of the important, I can give you one example. Probably, in late 2017, WannaCry was one of the malwares which attacked millions and millions of computer systems throughout the world. So, so we need to be very before a threat comes in or a malware comes in, that we need to ensure that do we know our assets as a company, as an organization? Do we know what kind of assets we are running? Do we know what kind of operating systems we are running? Do we know what kind of data is important for us? So it's very important for us to answer these questions before we see what threats are coming towards us. So in the typical example of WannaCry, if, for example, as a company, I would know that what kind of Windows servers I am running, what is the level of patching I have in my operating system. Is port 445, because it was propagating on port 445. Am I allowing port 445 in my network, for example? So we need to ask these questions before we can properly take care of threats. And now, with the recent advent of technologies, there are these new threat intel technologies where now companies no more are only relying on a reactive part, but moreover they are relying on a protective part. They go out on the internet, they see what the threat actors are doing, they try to profile the threat actors to know well in advance what they will do and when they will target you. So they do that homework proactively rather than maybe 3-4 years before we were doing things reactively. So I think the need of an hour is that we need to be more proactive. We need to be more doing threat intelligence on regular basis. That's very important for me.
Thank you. Mauro, what can you add?
Well, it's difficult to add something because, I think Abdul gave a sort of very nice picture of what we have today, and I think it's sort of the industrial vision. Let me actually wear the shoes of the academic and go beyond the next 2 years or 3 years. I think the major problem is globalization and pervasiveness. So I think the issue is not, I don't think it's not, I'm not able to tell you what will be the major threat in 3-5 years. There will be another emerging threat. I think the real critical part is that at this point we are already in a world where we are exposed to everything. And so I don't think it's a matter of one single threat, one single attack, one single type. It's more like the combination of the different things. It's more like the fact that we are living in an environment where there is complete openness of the system. We are living in an environment where the people, there is no clear ownership of many systems. It's still the case now. I mean, today, we have companies owning the particular systems, but the more you go ahead, the more it's going to be difficult to identify the owner. I'm thinking about one of the collaboration I have is with the idea of smart cities. Who owns the smart city? Not in terms of who can regulate the smart city, but who owns the system? Nobody or everybody. And I think the issue is that opens the door, billions of doors to attacks. And this is not just a matter of like one specific malware, one specific approach, one specific attack, but it's really the globalization of the system that will create major problems in the near future. The other thing is people. I mean, I know we are technical people, we are technical staff, and we look at software, we look at system. If you were here before, I annoyed you for half an hour about machine learning and deep learning and blah, blah, blah. But I think the issue is that we can deal with software, but how we deal with people, how we deal with the impact that people have in the system. And that's actually the issue that we actually have to deal with.
I agree, yeah. And let me add my view on this as well. So looking back into about 20 years of my experience in cybersecurity, there were different interesting topics which were a bit of marketing buzzwords, but at the same time they become not so difficult to fight issues. And the most strongest malware right now, which I know, is relates to the same kind of ransomware attacks. But this ransomware attacks is evolving, and they evolved from just simple techniques, which you could have been written, in 2 hours, code for this ransomware, to more and more complicated, sophisticated techniques. And what we see in the modern world, that bad guys not just try to run some executable files on your system and try to encrypt things, but they also try to inject their code into some trusted processes running in Windows, like SVC host exe, for example. And even more, the recent Teruic ransomware, they not only inject code in one process, they try to inject code into several processes, and they do encryption and do all these bad things on behalf of several processes. So if you just monitor one process, you will not be able to catch this ransomware. You need to really combine all these events from different processes and only after that apply some heuristics or any other detection techniques. And you need to really evolve your protection to be able to catch such a parent-child attack in the system, or be able to catch tricks that bad guys, for example, they realize that security products start catching them when we try to check file before modification and after modification, right? And if before it was just a Microsoft Word document, and after modification it becomes something strange, one document, second, third document, it's possible to say that this process is probably a ransomware process. So what we do now, we are not changing the magic bytes in the header of the file, which actually how security products realize that this is Microsoft Word or Microsoft PDF or Adobe PDF file or Excel. We're just not touching headers and only encrypt the body of the file. So the not very smart security solutions, they can realize that the file is actually encrypted because they check magic bytes, they are the same, and that's all. So more advanced needs to use entropy analysis and more advanced techniques to fight against such sophisticated threats. So I believe it's also not only in quantity of solutions, but quality of the same type of ransomware and other types of well-known threats.
Yeah, just to add, Nick, what you're saying, in the past when we were seeing a lot of malwares, and we were trying to see what kind of use cases we can create, because at that time machine learning was at a very infancy stage, and we were not able to leverage that. But then we came across this MITRE framework. It really helped us a lot, because it was telling you exactly, how if a hacker will land into your network, how he will try to do a lateral movement inside your network from one host to another host, what kind of processes he can run, what is normal and what is not normal. So they have around, I think they also came up with MITRE 2.0, where they have around 300 techniques where they say how an attacker can come into your network and then how he can do a lateral movement. And then they will tell you for every technique what kind of log source you need, what kind of event you need to monitor, so that you can have better use cases to ensure that you are protected all the time. And it's an amazing framework. I think everybody should look at it.
Thank you. And Abdul, you almost start answering my second question before I asked it. And my second question is exactly about the technologies which needs to be implemented and the mix of the technologies to be able to fight successfully against the modern attacks. So what do you think should be implemented right now, and what limitations current security landscape has, which needs to be overcome in the next several years to be successfully protected against the most advanced attacks?
Yeah, see, for me, whenever we talk about malwares, we start looking at our endpoints and our servers. So we try to see what kind of monitoring we can have in our endpoints to protect the malware. But I think we need to move a step ahead, and we need to see about defense in depth approach. So we need to see, I can give you an example, in 2017 in our company, out of, for example, 100 incidents per year, 75% were related to malware. So malware was the top contributing category in our environment. Then we said, okay, how we will be able to protect it? Okay, we said, okay, we have already an antivirus. Let's try to put another technology, for example, EDR technology. But see, when you, I think in one of the presentations in the morning, someone said that, putting an agent is not an efficient way because it's an overhead for IT. When you go to IT and as a security team and you tell them, I'm bringing you one more agent, they'll just give you a Jim Carrey look. What? Because they are already having so many agents and they have maintenance problem, and then you tell them I have one more security agent which you need to deploy. So then we said, okay, if we are now thinking about protecting malware, let's see what are the vectors from where we are getting malware. So we tried to identify the vectors, and then we see web and email were the top contributors, the vectors from where the malware was coming. We said, okay, rather than looking at endpoint, let's look at our perimeter level. Let's see what kind of controls we can put in our proxy. So then we said, okay, in proxy, your proxies are giving categories. If a website is not categorized by my proxy server, I'll block it because I don't know it. So let me block, because these malware attackers, what they do, they will try to create a website now, and within 5 minutes you see that website will be down. It will be no more there. But what will be the thing that it will not be categorized in your proxy server. So we did some stringent controls at the proxy level. Then we'll also looked at our email solution, and we tried to put a strict control for our emails. So what we saw is a dramatic drop in the malware category case. So my suggestion is that when we are looking at protecting something, whatever threat or malware, we need to look at the holistic, all of our ecosystem, and we need to see in every technology where we can put proper controls so that we can ensure that this malware will not penetrate into our network.
Thank you. Mauro?
Well, adding on, I think, in the longer term, we should move from simply trying to protect to try to avoid. In terms of what I say also just before. I think the issue is we are good, we have a lot of elements to protect our system. But, there is much less work done in terms of try to eliminate the root cause. So I give you a very simple example, 15, 20 years ago, we had this problem of buffer overflow, we have the problem of fault injection or SQL injections. Now you can get the software, analyze the software, and eliminate the issue that actually lead to that. It's not easy, it's a very difficult task. It's not, but it's not impossible. I mean, there are now tools that actually allow you to analyze the software, get every possible buffer overflow, eliminate every possible buffer overflow, of course with the risk of a bit of slowdown in performance. But I think it's a very, very little step. I think we should actually try to pair the approach that we have today, try to protect every single level, to protect every single thing, try to avoid from the beginning closing the doors to the attackers. It's difficult because, of course, closing the doors is simple by simply not having anything running. But the more we close doors, the more we actually create problems with the users, and that's a really difficult balance. It's difficult because the more you actually work, it's very expensive time, and it's very time consuming. But I think the real revolution will be in terms of being able to know what are the core issues that we find in the software, in the sensors, in the devices, in the network, that we can actually analyze and eliminate, not to give the handles to the hackers to attack us, more than just prevent them.
Yeah, I can add that, as you know, Mauro, Acronis is working with Schaffhausen Institute of Technology on the project about quality analysis for the quality of code. And before, my team in R&D, they told me that it's something really theoretical, not clear how it will work. But right now, many of them, they return back and say, wow, looks like it works. It's not easy, but it starts working, and it's an interesting approach. So we probably will continue and try to go deeper with this approach. And let me add as well from my side, regarding the technology, I am fully with you, Abdul, about defense and dev approach. It's clearly the way to go. And one of the technology in this way is not just analyze the applications on the system or analyze the data protection technologies, but also to include user behavior into the whole picture and give the context of what's going on. Because one of the surprise for me was when I read the research about how we use mouse. All computer mouse, right? Many of you use it right now. And we all actually have unique pattern of how we use the mouse. And even if you know the user name and password on some website, say banking site, and you're logged in, and imagine you're a hacker, right? You got these credentials from a normal user, and you try to make a transaction to your account with the technology which will analyze the pattern of how you use the mouse versus how originally and most commonly the normal user uses the mouse. You can block this attack, which is quite interesting idea. And more and more such user context should be involved in the technology, in the whole complex of security technologies, in my view.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because whenever you say something, it reminds me something. Because we were saying when we were working in SOC, and we were always creating use cases, and our use cases reached more than 1,000 use cases. But then when we were sitting down and we were saying, okay, now we have 1,000 use cases, are we missing something? And we always had a question mark that yes, these 1,000 use cases, even 2,000 use cases you are creating use cases for the known things, which we know. We know this is the threat, we know this is abnormal, we know this is not valid, a user connecting from here and then suddenly I see his connection from US. It's something abnormal, but it's known to me. But what about those things which are unknown to me, like what you are saying, the movement of mouse, an employee who never comes on Friday, he never logs on to this particular server and suddenly I see his connection. But for these things, you cannot really create use cases. You need to leverage technologies like machine learning, which can give you the behavior, which can give you the pattern, how the machines are working, how the machines are communicating, what is the behavior of the user, and based on which then you can have trends, and based on those trends then you can have your detection mechanism.
Yeah, I agree. AI is very good for anomaly detection of different kinds. And so here we come to the users, so people, right? And as you know, one of the well-known saying is that people is the weakest link in any computer security, in any computer systems. And there is a research by Cybersecurity Ventures published in November 2018 that right now there is already a shortage of skills in cybersecurity market. It was estimated 1 million places without good security specialists which can fulfill these places, and the estimate of growing, it's actually a really growing trend. So by 2021, more than 3.5 million places will be unfilled because not enough skills on the market, not enough cybersecurity specialists who can come and close these gaps. So my question to you guys is, why do you think this situation happened till now, and what is the solutions how to close this gap on global scale? Maybe Mauro, you can start with you.
You know what are coming to me when you talk about education. I think there is an obvious answer. We need more programs. And that's very easy to answer. It's a stupid answer if you want, but it's important. I mean, there are universities right now that actually started new Master of Science in cybersecurity. The first Master of Science in Schaffhausen Institute of Technology will be on cybersecurity and software quality. But I think, I like to put two different elements on the floor which are really, really important. One is the society message that we give to the people. I've been teaching for too many years right now, and I noticed that anytime there is a shortage of, there is a shortage of experts in computer science, a shortage of experts in telecommunication, a shortage of experts in cybersecurity. There is no shortage of experts in law. There is no shortage of, so it's our field which is basically really, really suffering for shortage of experts. Now, you can look at that and say, yes, it's a field that grows dramatically. Come on, has been growing dramatically for 40 years. Do we expect to slow down? I mean, it's the obvious thing. I think there is a bigger responsibility of the society. I think, also the press, if you want. There is a responsibility to actually give value to these jobs. I mean, I think the issue is that we do have many students who come and wants to actually be educated, but not enough. And why is the point? The point is that people privilege other fields, other initiatives, because I think our society is really not giving the right incentive to the students, to the young people to actually start this career, which is still seen as a very bad, small niche of work. It's not only us. I mean, of course, us as professors in computer science are not at the same level of communication as our colleagues from the law department or the medical school, which are much more able and used to actually communicate. But it's also the society. If you look at the TV series, the expert of IT is always someone who has some problems. Think about your favorite movie. Is the hero the IT expert? No, it's never. Even if it is, looks like, Jeep, poor guy. I mean, this is actually something that we should consider very, very more than we actually been done before. Then, of course, we should act on education. We should offer new programs. We should actually attack the people. What we are doing, and I can tell you what we do in Schaffhausen, but we are educating a few dozens of people per year does not change the world, of course. It's important, but this doesn't change the world. But for example, one thing that we are doing is trying to actually get something which is specialized and holistic. That's another thing which is very important, because we have this general purpose education. We educate software engineers, we educate computer scientists, we educate data engineers. We do not educate cybersecurity engineers yet. So we need to educate cybersecurity engineers, but the mistake will be to educate only cybersecurity. We should educate people with knowledge and expertise in cybersecurity and a broad knowledge of engineering, of science, of computer science, because that's where they need to actually learn. One thing that actually came out from Stan, from Acronis, we're talking about this master, because the master that we're doing is I'm trying to do it for the society. It's not my master. It's the master I try to figure out. So my question is to my friends, what are the kind of expertise you ask to your new employees to hire them well, And answer is you need to know about hardware security. Why the hell we are software guys? Because you cannot separate hardware and software. So that's the kind of message we give to our students. We should actually be able to create this professional role, which is not just expert in hacking. It's more like expert in the whole spectrum of elements that are in cybersecurity.
Thank you. Do?
I think, when you mentioned about this scarcity of cybersecurity resources, just a couple of days before ISC Square, they released they do it, I think, annually, and they released it just on 24th of this month. They released this report of cybersecurity workforce shortage. And they mentioned that currently, probably, we have around 2 million cybersecurity guys, in the industry, but the requirement is about more than 4 million. So we have a deficit of more than 100% here. So how we will cope up with this? And we have faced this problem a lot since last couple of years, because we were always publishing an ad, and then not the relevant candidates were not coming in. If some candidates were coming in, their pay scale was very high that our HR was not able to afford them, and we faced this issue. And then we were saying, what is the challenge? And then we found that our HR, we have a common HR, and this HR will recruit a guy which is a database admin or a system admin, or he's a sales executive. The same HR guy will hire an executive who is a cybersecurity expert. So for HR, they really don't have this distinction between this IT role and the cybersecurity role. So they take them both in the same path, in the same grade, in the same life cycle of their HR, which doesn't make sense. And then when we were telling them that this is not the right approach, we need to take a different approach, it took us a lot of time to educate our HR that cybersecurity workforce, you need to treat them differently, or maybe you need to create a different grade system, or you need to keep a different career path for them, so that you need to excite them so that they will come in for our organization. So they were telling us, why you are asking us this? You just need an apple. You ask us apple, we will give you an apple. But then when we faced, and probably for 2 years we were struggling and we were not getting the right resources. Then we said, okay, let's address this issue to our management. So we went and we talked to our management, and we also educated them that we have this problem. We shared a couple of reports with them, and then we told them, yes, we have this problem, so we need to somehow make sure that we need to treat them differently. And finally we reached a conclusion where they say, yes, for cybersecurity personnel we need to think differently. So our HR also needs to be mature enough to deal these kind of situation. That's number one aspect, which is hiring is very tough. But then once, if you are lucky, you will hire a guy, then how you will be able to retain that guy? Because this industry is such vibrant that today he will join your organization, tomorrow he will find n number of opportunities, and then he will have to leave. So what you will do to ensure that? So we need to have a proper career path for them. Probably we need to have proper training programs for them. You need to attract them. And for me, most important, I just wanted to share one story, if you allow me. I was working with the manager, and he was very honest, he was very open, and he was very friendly with the employees, the workforce which was working under him. So he was very friendly with them. He was friendly in such an extent that if any of his subordinates used to get an interview call, they used to tell him, hey, I got an interview call, what I will do. And I was, first when I heard this, for me it was kind of weird, you are going to your line manager and you are telling him that I will go for an interview call somewhere else. And then finally it happened with me, I got a call. I got an interview call, I said, okay, everybody is going to him and he's very friendly with me also, let me also approach him. So I approached him, I told him, hey, I have an interview call, what do you suggest? And I was surprised that he told me, he helped me a lot. He told me about the company, hey, I will tell you about the company, it's good, how it is good, if it is bad, how it is bad. And he even literally he prepared me for my interview. So then I said, man, what's this? And many of our guys, they left to different organizations. But let me tell you something, that many of those guys, they came back and they joined the same team. And the guys who didn't join back, they are often calling this manager and they are telling him, whenever you will have opportunity, we'll come and we'll work with you. So here, the people aspect is more important. How you treat your employees, how you make your employees happy. We had one more story, if you allow me. We had one boss. One fine day he came, he said, I will resign. And he said, what is the reason why I have to resign? Because today when I woke up, I didn't felt like going to office. So this is the time where you need to quit. So then, and why? He said, why? Because the elements in the companies, the politics going on, there is no career path, you say something right, nobody listens to you, hierarchy, you cannot talk to managers, you cannot talk to directors. So if we try to, try to minimize, these effects which are happening on workforce, and if we have this human element, this human touch, that hey, he is also a human, he is working with us. If you can build this relation, then guess what? You will not have a problem of this resource shortage. And if an employee will go, ultimately he will come back to you. So probably that human element we need to take care. Maybe if there are managers sitting here, they need to really think about it. Human element is the number one element. You just tackle human element, you will have less problems with skill shortage.
Thank you, Abdul. Yeah, I agree with you.
Give me like 1 second.
Another story?
No, I want to answer the question, because the question is, what can we do?
Yes.
And I want to answer the question to you and all the people here working in companies, help universities. I mean, it's not a joke. I mean, it's difficult to start programs. I think we need a global change in the way we actually educate people. It's important to get to sponsor and support universities by providing problems, providing needs, also providing candidates, if possible, to get the things. Because if you say, look, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll hire people in this thing. If we come to you, we actually give problems, that's actually very helpful.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. It's very important. And I just want to add a very short comment on this, is that from my point of view, one of the issues with education of cybersecurity specialists that many of you, they consider their work as just operational work. Okay, we will go to this specific interface of product X, we will do these operations, scan systems, or okay, we will go in this product interface and renew certificates, and it's so boring, it's not so interesting. But the reality is that very good cybersecurity specialists, they need to understand their systems very, very well to be able to do penetration testing, to be able to do some analysis of the system and building threat model. And all this can result in very interesting articles and presentations during different security conferences. And actually, the life of cybersecurity specialist is very, very creative if you look deeper and not just cover the operational part. So I think this is what in educational courses are not fully touched. And this creativity aspect of this work should be highlighted during education of young specialists. And so we're almost out of time. And let me ask you guys the last final question about the future, right? We all like to see this, to know the future. And let me take your view of what will happen in next 1 or 2 or 5 years with cybersecurity. What may be new issues, new challenges you see in the future, or maybe new technologies from technology front, what we will see, maybe biometrics, maybe something else. Abdul, let me start from you.
Okay. So, we, since, in many presentations, we said that, data is the bread and butter, this is what we are, information security, we are securing the data, and this data is expanding. It's exploding, actually. So how we need to cope up with this, that's number one issue. And then we also need to look at, when we deploy technologies, when we put on technologies into our environment. Earlier, what we used to do is, for every problem, you have a technology, you put in a technology, and that technology works fine for that particular problem. But now it's no more that. Now that like what Acronis is now doing, being a backup company, I would say, Acronis, when I would join an Acronis event, I would see only Acronis talking about maybe performance, IO, resiliency, about backups. But no, Acronis is now talking about security. So companies are changing. So all the companies need to have a shift in this, in their mind, that hey, I'm not only building the product. First, before building the product, I need to think about security. So that mindset needs to be changed. And then, of course, when we bring in these different kind of technologies, we talked about SIM solutions, we talk about machine learning, we talked about artificial intelligence. So then, we need to ensure that this all ecosystem, how we will be able to wind together so that we can get an end result. Because initially when in a SOC, when we used to get an alert, the moment we used to get an alert, we used to take an action. But now it's no more about that. You need to complete that story, why that malware was coming to you. So you need to let malware in. You need to monitor the malware, but you need to also see what is his end result, what the malware is trying to do. So you need to complete this story, and that story will be completed when you wind all your ecosystem, all your technologies, and then on top of it, automation is very important, which we need to do, because as the data is expanding, number of events are expanding, number of alerts are expanding. Alert fatigue is a big problem nowadays. So now automation is at the helm. We need to look at automation. We need to look at these orchestration solutions which has come in, and they are winding all these technologies together. We need to really look at it. And of course, we need to look at other aspect where, in the keynotes we were saying now even our washing machine has an IP address. So billions and billions of devices are coming in. We need to think not only about IT systems now, it's no more about IT systems. And guess what? Now it is about, for example, just last year, we were dealing with, these, you are having these fire sensors. And now you are, as a telecom, you are monitoring that fire sensor. That means now it's about life and death. It's not about availability anymore. So we need to take security very seriously, and we need to see, how we wind all those technologies together, and, we need to take care of data.
Thank you, Mauro.
I have very few minutes left, but let me actually point the finger to a couple of things. One is, I think, privacy. I think, there will be a huge impact, not only like in terms of privacy of data, but impact of the knowledge of data on the society, which is going to be beyond our limit. So I think, there will be a big challenge, and we will be challenged. We technical staff will be challenged by the society to be able to control in a fair way all the information that actually right now can actually screw up not just the single companies, but the whole countries. I think that's a very important part. The second thing that I already mentioned is people. I think, we are going to a new generation of systems where we will be part of the system, okay? My favorite example, if you go to Oslo, you don't get the manual of the smart city of Oslo, but you actually walk in the city and you are part of the city, and as such, you actually make the city working, and it is possible for bad behaviors to actually, as a person, to influence the system in a way which is not completely easy to understand. Another element that I like to say is, we talked about people, I think, machine learning elements, because, they open a completely new area of attacks. You can actually fool the machine learning engine and make them doing something that they are not supposed to do. I think that's actually something that we didn't think yet, but that's very, 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 very difficult. And I'd like to stop here because we don't want to actually slow down, delay the lunch time.
Okay, thank you, guys. And yeah, I will not make a lot of predictions for the future. I will just make one. I hope that actually the future is unpredictable, right? It's very cloudy and uncertain, but the really light in the future, I'm going to name Acronis CyberProtect. So CyberProtect will be installed on many machines and will help us, our customers, our partners, to be protected in this difficult world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for that. So we're gonna have a short break, but before we do, just a reminder: please fill in your feedback on each individual session on the app on your phones, please. We're going to have this a breakout session. We're going to split the actual room in two. Before we actually do that, though, one thing I don't want to forget is that there's a lot of work that goes into these events, as you can imagine, a huge team behind it. And everything from the food, from the content, the rooms, the stage, everything is organized very, very well by our events team. So I'd like to put a big hand together for our events team today. You've done a great job on pulling this event together. So our two breakout sessions this afternoon, this room, we'll ask you to take your belongings and leave this room in a second. We will take down the stage and we'll divide this room into two. We're having two tracks. One is led by Bertil. Bertil, if you're in here, hand up. Modernize your business and grow revenues with Acronis Cyber Cloud, charting the future, and a cyber platform demonstration and overview. In the track I'm heading, which will be in this half of the room, Cyber Protect, led by Nick, panel discussion around the future of cyber protection, and winning the trifecta in infrastructure. So some great content this afternoon, I'm sure you agree. And again, just a reminder, this evening at 7 o'clock, outside in the pool area at the back of the hotel, we'll be having a meal with some good food, good entertainment, and hosting our women in tech, Susie Wolf, Claire Williams, Cheryl Robinson, Asil Al-Hamed, and Jamie Chadwick. So we look forward to seeing you at that event tonight. It's going to be great fun. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your lunch, and see you back here in an hour. Thank you.